Hi, everybody. It's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back. We've finished TNG Reunion, the first hardcover book for TNG. So, it was a big deal. It was a big one. He didn't want to mess it up. And I do have here in my possession both of them, hardcover and soft. I just read this one and I left this one on the shelf, but since we're here to talk about them, we can look at both of them, and it's always nice to see how they did the hardcover. But let's start first with what we're looking at here. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation Reunion. You're right there. This book is the one of the not one of the numbered series, but it would fall between 18 and 19 in the numbered series. And I have read the first, I think, 50 or so, but have not read all of the unnumbered books that fall between. So that's kind of my goal that I'm going forward here with next month. Reading this one, and I think we've got Vendetta. We've got some novelizations of episodes, and the best and the brightest, I think. So maybe 3 or 4 more, and then we've kind of hit that whole era of TNG books and covered it. And I'll be pretty happy with that. But today we're here to talk about Reunion. This is the New York Times blockbuster bestseller, finally come to paperback. From the back, Captain Picard's past and present collide aboard the USS Enterprise in an epic tale of revenge and betrayal. A story in the grand tradition of Spock's world and Vendetta. See, I'm just talking about Vendetta. Reunion. Before he commanded the Starship Enterprise, Jean-Luc Picard was the captain of the deep space exploration vessel, the USS Stargazer. Now, an incredible 22-year voyage. Now Picard is reunited with his old crew for the first time in over a decade, in a mission to see his former first officer installed as the ruler of the David Empire. But the reunion turns deadly when a ruthless assassin begins eliminating the USS Stargazer crew one by one. Picard's present and former shipmates must join forces to solve the mystery of the captain's past, before the killer strikes again. Okay, not a bad back cover, kind of doesn't give away too much, but again, I don't read those things before. I just read them afterward. But yeah, that's what you have here. You have a Star Trek whodunit. Your classic murder mystery on a ship. You do get a lot of new characters, so you're going to have to be ready to get introduced to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I'd say 7 to 8 new characters that play a pretty big part in this, which of course is his former crew from the Stargazer. So, and it's kind of interesting at this point, I don't know. I know that he went on, Michael Jan Friedman, to write the Stargazer book series as well. But at this point in time, he thought that this was going to be a one-off, and he would never get to, write about these characters again. So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to, because this kind of little dip into that has made me interested in that whole period in Picard's life and getting to know the crew more, and kind of that whole, I guess, the deep space mission of it is very intriguing too. So I'm looking forward to someday getting into the Stargazer series. But today we are here to talk about Reunion. And again, what Reunion is basically a whodunit. You've got a murder mystery, or not quite. There's a possible murderer on board, so you're trying to eliminate suspects. You've got your classic red herrings. You think it's going to be this person. You got nice little clues dropped here and there, and it's interspersed with a good amount of action, and kind of to add to the personal drama that's going on, with all that, they throw in this kind of, I don't know, galactic dilemma where they get caught in this slipstream. So now, in addition to dealing with the murderer on board, they've got to find a way to escape this galactic slipstream that they're caught up in before they get carried off into deep space and are not able to get back in time to go ahead with this installation. So again, the book starts with them talking about how they have to pick up the Stargazer crew. The one of the members, this Ensign Morgan, who was an ensign at the time, I think he's a captain now, is a member of the DeVitt race and a member of their ruling class and has been somehow selected to be the ruler. So he has chosen members of his old crew to be his honor guard, and the Enterprise is transporting them to the planet to do that. So that's what the idea is. So then along the way, these attacks start happening, and then the crew has to kind of figure out what's going on. And then when they get caught up in this slipstream, it just even takes it to another level now because they have an internal and an external threat that they're fighting against. You get lots of little flashes back, kind of. You get little hints of maybe how things went on the Stargazer, which is very cool. A, a good part of it is Beverly and her. At first, like, she didn't want to interact with these people because she didn't want to be reminded of her husband. But then that kind of comes into the story more, where it actually becomes a part and plays a part in solving the mystery. So I would say, as far as TNG crew, they don't get as much time as they would normally get in like a book like this, of course, since you got 7 new characters coming in. But Riker, Worf, of course, Picard, they do play a fairly big part in it, along with Dr. Crusher. So the new characters, I think, are all very interesting and well done, very well written. And again, it made me want to go back and learn more about who they are. So very cool, and just a very well done book. Very cool cover art by the late great Keith Birdsong. And on the paperback one here, as you can probably kind of tell if I turn it sideways, it's like it's raised up here. So just a little bit of extra that they added to this book here. Before we jump into just chatting about the book, let's look at the hardcover. So nothing too different. They've got a blurb on the back, or an excerpt on the back, and then the stuff on the inside. But the fun thing about the hardcover is, what does it look like? I like this one, red and black. So, I mean, I often think about removing all the dust jackets from all my hardcovers and just having them up there like this, because I kind of like how this looks as opposed to the glossiness of it. But not this day. So, and we do have a photograph here that I didn't get to see before, and there is the author, Michael Jan Friedman, who I've read. I've read many of his TNG books, I'm sure, if I were to go back and check everything out. So, now, if you don't want to be spoiled, you can go ahead and check out now. I'm going to just kind of, rant about the book for a little bit. We'll talk about the characters, the things that I thought were nice, and, do what we normally do here on this channel. So, now, like I said, the book starts out with them going to pick up the full crew of the Stargazer. So you get Captain Picard. He's feeling, at first he has like a dream about when they left. Basically, the Stargazer was in a battle with the Ferengi, and the crew had to abandon ship. So he has this dream about that when that happens, and he imagines seeing Jack Crusher there on the shuttle with them, even though he had died, previous to that, and actually wasn't there for that. So you can kind of tell already that he's maybe feeling something, feeling like a little nervous about this upcoming reunion that's going on. And the same thing with Dr. Crusher as well. She's almost to the point where she doesn't even want to leave her quarters and interact with the crew, because she doesn't want to have her husband brought up and have to talk about that when she doesn't want to, So let's meet the crew of the Stargazer. You have Ben Zoma, who was his XO, was his first officer. You have Idun Asmund, and that is who I believe is featured there on the cover, the blonde lady there. And then she had a twin sister, Greta Asmund, and Greta and Iden had an interesting background where they were part of a colony that was attacked. They were the only survivors, and they were picked up and raised as Klingons. So already, their backstory is very interesting to me. So, this way, that way, this way, that way. There we are. Okay, moving on. Security Chief Pug Joseph, uh, Figgis Simonin, who was a Nullish, and a Nullish is like a kind of like a lizard person. You can look them up. Carter Greyhorse was their chief medical officer, and their communications officer was Cadwaller, and Ensign Morgan, who was the Devite, and he is the one who is going to be the new ruler. So these are all the new characters that are coming on board the Enterprise for this big reunion. So, and the book kind of focuses initially on, of course, Morgan. That's like the big part. And one of the things that they play on in the beginning is him and Worf, because their races apparently were at war for a while. So, historically they don't get along. So Worf kind of reaches out to get along with him. They have like a holodeck exercise together, and they end up becoming pretty good friends. So, oh, and that's Morgan, I believe, pictured there on the cover too. So, but anyway, they have to bring him to his planet, and he'll be installed there as the new leader. So, again, he becomes friends with Worf. Worf invites him to the holodeck. When they get to the holodeck, they go through the normal program, but then all of a sudden it ramps up to like a higher difficulty. And then they throw in a nice little Chief O'Brien cameo where he kind of sees something weird going on, and they're able to alert someone and kind of get in there in time to shut it down in time before they're taken out by the holodeck adversaries that just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But again, that's kind of a fun little scene there. You can imagine them kind of fighting back to back against, you remember the early TNG episodes with like Worf and Kalar, and they're fighting in his battle sequences, and all the monsters are kind of like these silly generic monsters. You got like the skull face guy and the big furry guy, So that's generally that's like what I pictured here, which made the scene very fun for me. So, so here you have a murder attempt, right? And of course they are thinking that it's an attempt on Morgan, right? An attempt on Morgan, and because he's going to be the new Devite leader. And it's revealed here in the story too that Iden Asmund's twin sister Greta, who was also on the Stargazer, attempted to murder this dude Morgan years ago, and then was caught and arrested, and I think eventually died. But it took Iden a long time to kind of get past that and get past suspicion. But now it's kind of like all brought up again. So she's kind of thrown into the eye, thinking that maybe it's her that's doing it. Pug Joseph is dealing with alcoholism, so they kind of have little stories thrown in and out where he's coming in, trying to get more drinks from Guinan instead of drinking alone in his quarters, and she's trying to kind of help him. So that's kind of like they have all these little kind of side stories that are going on that fit into the main story and give you more information about these characters. For example, Simonin, who's the Nullish engineer, he has a little side story with Wes where they're in the holodeck just kind of skipping stones, and that leads to an idea further on down the line. Cadwaller is Riker is kind of enamored by her, is going to ask her out, but then when she becomes a suspect, because they're kind of all suspects now, he has to back off, and then there's kind of like this little side story there too. So again, you have all these little threads and these little things going on, and one of them was, and I guess all of them actually kind of leave you like little clues or things like that maybe it's this person, maybe it's that person. He's pointing in this direction, he's pointing in this direction. So just very well done there. I would say I really didn't. I didn't know. I didn't really have a clue who it was until we got closer to the end and it was kind of revealed. It could have been any of them, really. So it was kind of a well done way that they revealed it in the end. So, boy, I'm forgetting some things here. I did take fairly decent notes this time, I will say. Look, I took notes. I have like all their names and I have notes about them. Let's see. Yes. Oh, yeah. So, the Slipstream event. I thought that was kind of interesting too. I was sure that that was going to be like something that would be tied into this assassin. Like they did something to the engines, they did something to navigation, but no, it was a completely separate incident. So you have the assassin on board, and then you have them just randomly getting caught in this slipstream, which basically, once they're in it, no matter what they do, they are at warp 9.999, right? They're like at top speed. They try full reverse, they try some different things. It doesn't matter. They are traveling at full speed, further and further away from their destination, you know? So then you have the engineering crew with the help of Simonin, the Nalish, working to get them out of the slipstream, while you have Worf and Picard and everybody working on, you know, finding the killer and taking care of that. So, in their first attempt to break free, they tried some, something crazy with the warp engines. But in the attempt, they lose power to part of the ship. And during that attempt is when the second assassination attempt takes place, where Dr. Crusher is meeting with Cadwaller and Morgan down in a lounge, and the lights go out. They go out into the hall to find a turbo lift, and bam! Blasted by a level 6 phaser blast. I think Cadwaller takes the shot, goes down, the person runs away, and they're able to get her to sick bay in time to save her life. But there were some interesting things here that I don't know if I've ever, I don't know, maybe I just don't remember hearing about phasers and how they communicate with the ship. Because this phaser was set to level 6, and level 6 could put a hole in the ship. So theoretically, the phasers should not have been able to do that, and all the phasers that are on board the ship somehow communicate with the ship's computer so that they are not able to reach that level and possibly destroy the ship. So I thought that was pretty good. I'd never... My microphone jumped away. I had never... I don't remember hearing that before, so hands off. Okay. So I like that. So there, you have your second victim. Cadwaller's now down. And then for the third victim, this was... I am a bit of a squeamish guy. The third victim was Benzoma himself. And I kind of liked how the writer did this too, where he's getting onto the turbo lift and he turns and he sees someone coming on and they don't identify him and he's like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you," and then and just starts stabbing him, right? And that was kind of gross. Like he just got like stabbed a bunch of times with a ceremonial Klingon knife. But the killer was able to get away. Worf came upon him and was able to kind of stop the blood flow enough. He didn't die. They got him to sick bay in time not to save his life. So, but now things are getting really crazy. So they are fairly certain it is Asmund. You know, she was raised Klingon. She brought Klingon knives on board. She's all about this. So they go ahead and they arrest her. She's like, "What? No, it wasn't me." But they arrest her because, you know, all the evidence points towards her. Worf he's kind of suspicious. He's not sure. So he has a talk with her. And in that talk, she kind of, you know, she tells him some things about how Klingons work and, you know, things that he already knows. And how these assassinations have went down is not like the Klingon way of doing it. So he becomes convinced that it's not her. Picard's still not willing to let her out, you know, just in case. And then this is when they get the kind of like the final reveal. I'm probably leaving something out. But Dr. Crusher is kind of stressed out. She's been listening to old tapes that Jack would send her when he was on the Stargazer. And in one of the tapes, Jack talks about seeing Grey Horse and Gerda getting frisky or something in the shuttle bay, you know? So apparently they were a thing. So then the wheels start turning for Dr. Crusher. Grey Horse is their man, right? And I didn't suspect him. I really didn't. Uh, but now that that little piece falls in, that makes perfect sense. He sees that her life was ruined by all of them kind of stopping her from completing her task of assassinating this guy and escaping with this kind of rogue Klingon sect, you know? So Grey Horse is the killer. Now they've got to track him down. And in the meantime, they still have to get out of this slipstream, right? So that's when I was talking earlier. Uh, Simonin and Wes are in the holodeck, and he's skipping stones, and Wes doesn't know about skipping stones, so they're skipping stones across this lake, and he gets this idea that kind of like the same thing. They could adjust the shields of the Enterprise to a different shape and get them to hit the slipstream and, you know, somehow skip out of it. So they do that, they attempt that. When they attempt that, the ship is hit with a good amount of damage and is kind of left messed up in the neutral zone. At this point, the brig goes down. Astrid, or Iden Ast, what do I call her? Astrid. Iden Asmund escapes the brig, and you have Grey Horse on the loose trying to take out Picard. So you have a good action sequence at the end there, and just, I don't know, really well done. I was up, I don't know, probably for about 2 hours last night outside reading it in the dark. I had like a light on my hat, and it was just a fantastic time. And just a wonderful way to kind of finish that book up. So actually, I finished up like the conclusion today, but the action and all that stuff I did last night. So in the end, Iden Asmund saves the day, as kind of jumps in and saves Picard from being thrown into an active transporter beam and having his molecules, you know, scattered all over the place. So she comes in, she saves the day. They're able to get out of the slipstream, but again, they are in Romulan space, so they're able to get the engine working, get into warp speed enough just to get away a little bit, get back in the slipstream. The Romulans get caught into it as well, and then they bop out again, fix themselves, and head back to Federation space. So, very, like, again, the space part and all that is just a interesting good bit thrown in to an already very good and very interesting, you know, mystery story. So, in the end, they're able to get to Devite in time to have Morgan installed. In a kind of a twist, Morgan asked Worf to be one of his honor guards, which is going to be like a big deal since they've kind of been at war, you know. So I thought that was very cool, very interesting, and the book ends before the event even begins, which I really like too. I was like, they're not going to go into like this whole thing now, right? It's like, no, that's not what the book was about. The book was about the journey to get to it and everything that went on there and what happened there. You know, that's a whole nother story for another day. So, yeah, that's Reunion, right? Really, one of my favorites that I've read in a while. I think that he just did a great job with the mystery. I'm a big guy for mystery. I love the mysteries, so I like that. I like how he did it. All the new characters were well done, and just, I don't know, I had a great time with it. So I am looking forward to definitely reading more Stargazer stuff in the future. Unfortunately, I have one single Stargazer book. That's like the one series that I've really not got into at all. So we will be remedying that hopefully in the near future. I am in the midst of proposing a deal that will possibly help fill out this collection extensively. Absolutely. So we'll see how that works. I have decided we're going to go right into Vendetta. Now this one actually, I think, comes before This was published. Oh, Reunion was published in November of '91. And this here, when I find the page, I will tell you, was also published in '91. But I believe earlier in the year in '91. So we'll be reading Vendetta next. And as you can see, Vendetta is going to be a Borg story. And I don't know much more about it other than that. Other than it's written by Peter David. And Peter David can't do no wrong by me. So we'll be jumping into that and talking about that real soon. So that's it, guys. We've talked about TNG Reunion. And we're going to go read something else. As always, live long and prosper. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.